Me, 32F, and my ex, 32M, had our daughter, 16F, back when we were in high school. We broke up after graduation, but remained friendly for our daughter's sake. Me and my ex are both married and have kids with our new partners. I have one 9-year-old daughter with my husband, and my ex has 3 young ones under the age of 6 with his wife. My daughter alternates between our houses each week, switching each Friday. Every time I get her back, she complains about how her stepmom is really strict and rude. She has my daughter always cleaning most of the house and watching her younger siblings all the time. There was even one instance where she stayed home from school to watch her younger brother who had a stomach ache. My ex's wife has never liked me, by the way, since she always thought it was weird that me and my ex are friends, even though we're only friendly for our daughter's sake. So sometimes I feel like she's hard on my daughter out of spite for me. I never got too upset about it though. I know having 3 young ones can't be easy and that she just needs my daughter's help around the house a bit. But she takes it too far. She always saying that me and my ex were too soft on our daughter growing up, so now she's disrespected and spoiled. Which, by the way, isn't true. I may not have beaten my kids with belts, but I still discipline them. They both have grown up to be respectful young ladies, and I've never gotten a complaint from their teachers. Anyway, my daughter's stepmom gets super upset if my daughter forgets to do just one chore. Which she does so much already. She cleans the bathroom, washes the dishes, does laundry, mows the yard, takes out the garbage, etc., on top of all that she still has schoolwork to get done. Well, Thursday, December 12th, my daughter got yelled at by her stepmom for forgetting to do the dishes that night, even though she only forgot to because she was studying for an upcoming test. When my daughter tries to explain herself, my ex jumped in and got mad at her for talking back. They were both yelling at her, and when she tried to speak up for herself when her stepmom slapped her for being disrespectful. Well, yesterday, my daughter drove to my home from school to spend her week with me. She told me about what happened and she was really upset about it. I was pissed. First of all, I wouldn't even let my husband slap her, so to know her stepmom did had me furious. She can do whatever she wants to her children, but she has no right to put her grown hands on my child. So I drove over to their house to confront her stepmom about it. Stepmom got really defensive and ended up getting in my face talking about how I should have raised her better. My ex took her side, of course, since that's his wife. Me and her said some things back and forth, and after physically trying to push me out of her house, I ended up slapping her and asking her something along the lines of, "How does it feel when you get slapped? You don't like it, do you?" I'm not proud that I acted like this, and I even called my ex today and apologized for making a scene in his home. I even told him I'd be willing to apologize to her, but he told me that she was adamant on the fact that she was right and she would not be apologizing to our daughter. She's the type so say, I don't need to explain myself to a child, so I guess that also means she doesn't feel the need to apologize when she's wrong too. I still feel like I should apologize, but I'm not sure if I want to if she won't admit she was wrong. I'm not sure what I should do. I want to remain friendly with my ex, but I'm not sure I can stand her treatment towards my daughter anymore. Edit, to clear things up, I was not upset the whole way driving over there. I knocked on the door and my ex let me in. I was staying calm while trying to talk to them like adults, when stepmom got in my say about how spoiled and disrespectful my daughter was being. I'm more of a gentle parent, so I don't believe in hitting your child the second they get you mad. She got mad at me and started trying to push me out the door. I got upset at her words and actions and swung. My daughter also isn't spoiled. I make her do chores too, and yes, because she's older she has more chores than her younger sister, but I am understanding when she forgets, while her stepmom takes it as disrespect. I will take the blame for letting things get this far. I've talked to my ex before about her stepmom needing to be more lenient, and he always remained neutral. Me and my ex have been texting back and forth right now, and honestly stepmom is more mad at my daughter than me since she thinks my daughter ran to me crying. I think we're gonna have her stay an extra week here because I cannot with that hoe right now. Edit 2, I did not apologize for standing up for my kid. I apologized for hitting her in her home where her young children could have seen. I shouldn't have lost my temper like that, but I don't think some of you understand how horrible it is to hear someone badmouth your kid. I don't care what her excuse was about having a bad day or none of that. She shouldn't have put her grown hands on my child, period. Edit 3, I have never forbid my daughter to go to her dad's house. It's always been a routine for her to go to her dad's every other week. Her grandparents got her a car when she passed her driver's test. She has every right to stay here with me or go to her dad's. I do take blame for not encouraging her to choose though. She was scared to disappoint or hurt her dad by choosing me over him. My daughter is free to choose where she wants to go. Since this whole thing happened, she'll be staying an extra week here probably, and we'll figure out the rest from there. Update 1. I believe I was fairly deemed as the and I take full responsibility for everything I've done. My Care's stepmom came over this morning and we talked about what happened. She said she understands why I reacted the way I did since she would do the same for her kids. She said that everything was a misunderstanding and that she only had my daughter doing so many chores since my ex is always busy at work and she has to chase 3 young ones around the house, so she needs extra help. I apologized for hitting her in her home where her younger children could have seen, especially since I'm a Christian and I need to show that better. but I made it clear that she has no right to slap my daughter, no matter how upset she was. Again, I did not apologize for standing up for my daughter, but for letting my emotions overcloud my judgment. I also added how there needs to be more boundaries in her home when it comes to how they treat my daughter and how she'll be staying with me a little bit longer until I can trust that they'll treat her equally to their other children. She began to break down and cry about how stressed she's been and how she has postpartum depression. That made me feel more guilty for hitting her. She apologized for taking the discipline of my daughter into her own hands and passive-aggressively mentioned how she'll just tell her dad to handle it next time. She wanted to speak to my daughter but was still asleep in her room, so I just said that she'll get to speak to her once my daughter is ready to speak to her. My husband is convinced that she is not sorry at all though. She left not too long ago, so I thought I'd just give everyone this quick update if y'all are still interested. Thanks again everyone. Edit. Me and my husband had a conversation with my daughter when she woke up. I expressed to her that she did nothing wrong and has every right to stay home with us. Making sure she knows that everything she feels is valid and that no one has the right to put their hands on her. She rightfully felt like she didn't want to go back, but she was worried my ex being upset about it. I explained to her that her father will always be just that and she doesn't need to live there for them to still have a relationship. A lot is still going on with his parents finding out about it, and even though I'm worried about what this all means going forward, I'm 100% backing my daughter all the way. We were never married, and since we had her in high school we never had a court-ordered custody agreement, we just decided on our own. There are other ways of her to see her dad other than going to his house, but I'm gonna let her talk to her dad about it and decide what they want to do. Also, what was she like before when she first came around and before the first child? I'm just trying to see if her behavior is truly induced from the stress of being a mom of multiple Smalls kids, or if she really just doesn't like you or your daughter. Yes, that's exactly what I explained to her too before she had her breakdown. Also, when my ex first got with her about 6 years ago, they weren't in a serious relationship since they didn't live in the same city, so he never introduced her to my daughter. She was also living with me and my husband at the time since her dad was living in San Antonio, but then his now wife had gotten pregnant by him, so he moved back here to be with her since she didn't want to move. They got married a year or so later. We started switching our daughter from each house when my daughter was about 10, since he now lived in the same city as us. I wanted my daughter to have a closer relationship with her dad, something I never had. Her stepmom was always kinda strict, but it wasn't as bad before as it is now. I don't think she was lying about her postpartum, but I didn't accept any of her excuses for hitting my daughter who's still a child. I have no problem with having my daughter help a little extra around their house because they have 3 little ones, but a lot of people have been telling me that it was parentification, so I'm definitely gonna have a conversation with my ex about all of this mess. I'm more than fine with my daughter living with me full time. She used to whenever her dad lived a city away. I just grew up with an absent parent in my life and I didn't want that for my daughter. I've never forced her to go to her dad's or to stay at my place. She has her own car now. I do take responsibility for not emphasizing to my daughter that she has a choice. I was used to our routine and dynamic from over the past 6 years. Nothing about our custody arrangement was done through court since me and my ex were never married. Everything was just mutually agreed upon. He's already said that it's fine for her to stay an extra week or so at mine since her stepmom still needs to calm down anyway. I've already had a discussion with them about how there needs to be boundaries set and that my daughter will not be returning to them until they get their stuff figured out, which I covered in my update I posted. Yes, they are going to say you slapped her, but OFC, you were also attacked and threatened and felt unsafe knowing she is violent. Your ex sounds like a doormat, BTW. Where is his rage? He's the my spouse before my kids type of person. Which I understand to an extent. Once our kids grow up and leave, it will just be us left with our partner, so the marriage is something you need to prioritize and nurture without putting it to the side. However, I would not allow my own husband to treat my daughter like that, so I don't appreciate my ex letting it all slide like he did when he was present while it happened. A big issue that I'm still seeing is that everyone is saying what they want her to do, what they're okay with her doing, what they think she should do. However, no one is asking her how these things are impacting her, mentally and academically, and what she wants to be done to make things better while still contributing. Of course she should contribute, but no child could be caring for others so much that they begin sinking in areas of their own life. Update 2. I don't know if anyone is even still interested in this family drama anymore, but here's some upsetting texts between me and my ex about the whole situation. He's defending my daughter's stepmom and won't back down. Even though she is obviously in the wrong. I don't want to get lawyers involved, but if we can't come to a mutual agreement, then that's going to be the only option. I don't want to get lawyers involved if we can come to a mutual decision that's best for our daughter. It'll be quicker and easier if it's just between our family. Also, having her 2 parents battling it out in court is what my daughter needs or wants at the moment. She just wants things to get better without jeopardizing her relationship with her father. Which I've made sure to remind her that it doesn't even have to come to that. He's not even upset about her staying here longer. He's upset because he's convinced I'm trying to keep her away forever, which is what we've been arguing about. Our daughter can see him as much as she wants, she just doesn't want to go over to their house anymore. Yet, if this gets out of hand and comes to the point where we need a court-ordered custody agreement, then I will be more than happy to find a lawyer. I understand everyone will have their own opinions on what I should be doing, but I know my daughter and I know my ex. Yes, I did fail by not intervening sooner, but it's not like my daughter always tells me everything exactly when it happens. I usually don't find out until weeks or months after the fact. Secondly, fighting a custody battle in court is not the first or only solution. I had her for 2 years full time while her dad lived in San Antonio, which he was fine with since he sometimes got her every other weekend or when he could. I already said that I'm addressing everything that happened and that she's gonna stay with me for the meantime. I just need to convince my ex that I'm not trying to permanently separate him from his daughter, which is something she doesn't want either. These texts I showed were mainly to prove my point on how he keeps siding with his wife. Now, if my daughter wanted to cut her dad out completely, then fine, let's go to court. But you guys keep suggesting this as if court will be a one and done easy thing. I'm not trying to subject my daughter to nothing she isn't ready for or anything that she doesn't want, and she doesn't want to go in front of a judge and pick mom over dad. My husband and I have explained to her that she's doing nothing wrong if she does choose to do that, but she just wants to spend time with her dad without her stepmom, which is something that we can come to a conclusion with together. Now on to second story. Son banned his stepmother from his bar mitzvah after her religious ambush, and now my ex insists they both won't attend. My ex and I have been divorced for 7 years. We have 3 children, Amy 17, Tom 16 and Ben 14. Our divorce was amicable and we co-parent well for the most part. I am a non-observant Jew and my ex is a non-practicing Catholic. We decided to teach our children to be decent people and allow them to decide what faith, if any, they wanted when we're old enough. My ex remarried 2 years ago and they have a 6-month-old daughter. She is a devout Christian, non-denominational. Since she came into their lives, she has actively tried to convert them. I wouldn't have an issue if she was just inviting them to church, but she is constantly telling them that if they do not accept Christ as their savior, they will go to hell, as will me and my family. After this, my children refused to see their dad, unless it was outside of his home, without her. Their dad finally put his foot down and put an end to it. Now, on to the problem. My parents went to Poland a few months ago to visit family and took my children with them. While my dad took them to Auschwitz and Ben was very moved. When he came home he started attending temple with my father and has been working with his rabbi to prepare for his bar mitzvah. He is having a small party afterwards at my parents' house. When his stepmother heard this, she really ramped up the crazy. She waited until my ex was not home and invited a bunch of people from her church over and they ambushed Ben. They tried to lay hands on him to save him from the fires. My daughter physically intervened, called an Uber and took her brothers home. My ex stopped by a couple of hours later and apologized profusely for what had happened. My son accepted his apology, but stated that his stepmother was no longer welcome at his bar mitzvah or the party afterwards. My ex got very upset by this and stated that this was being disrespectful and he could not go somewhere where his wife was not welcome. My son said, "Well, I guess, you're not invited either, then." He then locked himself in his room. My ex, his parents, and his wife have all been texting and calling berating me. When my parents found out what had happened, they stated that his wife was not welcome in their home, but they told my son that he should still allow his father to come. My ex is adamant that he will not come without his wife and my son is adamant that his wife is not invited. I refuse to intervene on his wife's behalf and my ex says I'm an asshole. Am I? Just a few things for clarification. I'm trying to respond to all comments, but there's getting to be too many, so thank you everyone for your input. I plan on showing this to my ex. 1. No, she wasn't like this when he married her. She went to church, but it wasn't until they got married that she became more involved. I was actually surprised that she was with him, knowing that he was not religious but figured opposites attract. 2. In the beginning, she was great with our kids. They liked her and spent a lot of time with them. Her pushing my kids towards Christianity was little things like insisting they bow their heads for grace at meal times, buying them books by religious authors, not allowing what she deemed inappropriate movies, Harry Potter, anything with profanity, hanging up religious pictures, and signs with Bible verses in the house, etc. Once she started with "You're going to hell if you don't" nonsense, I got their dad involved and it ended. At least for a while. 3. Their dad is very supportive of our sons embracing Judaism. He is paying for private Hebrew lessons and has offered to send him to Israel the summer after high school, providing it is safe to go. 4. My ex and I met our freshman year of college. We were together a few years before getting married, and only got married because our first was on the way, and both of our sets of parents were very insistent that we do so. My parents, especially, were very big on the legal aspect of it for my protection. 5. We separated after almost 20 years of being together, because we had started to become unhappy together, and, despite counseling, could not resolve some of our differences. There was no infidelity or anything like that. We only got divorced when he met his current wife so that they could marry. We had no formal custody agreement in place. My parents have me seeing a lawyer next week to put some parameters into place and protect everyone involved. 6. He promised that the kids don't have to be around his wife until they are ready to be. I asked then, why is it a big deal that he doesn't want her at the ceremony and party? His response is that he wants the invitation extended, but he will make sure that she won't go. He says it's disrespectful and a snub to not invite her. I told him that that sounded like a big bunch of BS and that she was not going to be no matter what edited for punctuation and spelling update 1. Anyway, when I got there was another couple there who I was introduced to as her pastor and his wife. I was immediately on guard. Stepmother stated that all she and her church group had wanted to do was pray for my children. She stated that she felt that raising them with no religion had done them a great disservice, and that I didn't understand all of the consequences of doing this. She stated that, since she had had her daughter, she realized how horrible it would be to be separated in heaven from the people she loved more than anything in the world. I said I did not believe that would happen, as I believed if there was any type of afterlife, one of the perks would be that you would be reunited with people that you loved. She then stated that it would have to be this way as my children had not accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Then she started to cry. I gently suggested to her that she was still postpartum, and that it was possible that her hormones and emotions were heightened, and that she was not seeing things clearly. That was obviously the wrong thing to say because then she and my ex both became angry with me and told me that I was trying to make her out to be a crazy person. Her pastor quoted a few Bible verses and attempted to expand on what she had said. The whole time my ex just sat there silently. I finally asked him what he thought about all of this, and he said that his wife meant well and that she was only concerned with our kids' souls. I asked him when he had become so religious, as during our 20 years together, he had not so much stepped inside of a church outside of a few weddings we'd attended. He stated that their having their daughter had made him realize how important choosing a faith was. I told him that our son had chosen, it just happened to be Judaism instead of Christianity. I also said it was my understanding that it was the same God for both. The pastor then again chimed in stating that Jesus was the true Messiah, and that Jews would be punished both in this life and the afterlife for denying that. At that point, my daughter stood up and stated that this whole discussion was making her sick. My older son said that he was tired of dealing with all of his stepmother's bullshit, and he would never step foot into their home again. He said over the years, he had ignored a lot as both myself and his dad had encouraged him to be tolerant of people's beliefs, but as nobody was being tolerant of his or his siblings' beliefs, he was done dealing with their hypocrisy. He told his dad that he had no desire to either talk or see him or his wife for the foreseeable future. We then left. Today, I met with the family lawyer that my parents had found for me. He said that tomorrow we are going to go to the courthouse for a temporary restraining order and to ask for an emergency custody order. He says we'll get both. He also had me go to the police department today and make a report with all 3 of my children about what happened last week. I am so sick that it has come to this. I never wanted my children to have to be put in the middle of battling families. I am aware, as so many of you pointed out, that I underreacted. To be honest, this is the first time in my life I have really ever dealt with anything like this. I grew up in an incredibly diverse community, where everyone was tolerant of everyone else, and when my ex and I were married, we returned and lived in that community, as we felt it was a fantastic place to raise children. So, that's that. I want to thank everyone for all of their support and for those who pointed out that I was being naive for being kind about it. I'm sorry, I could not respond to everyone personally, including all of the private messages I was sent. There were just so many. Never expected this to blow up so hard. Update 2. Ida for not allowing my kids to see their grandparents for Christmas break? Hello, everyone. I posted on here a couple of months ago after my ex's wife staged a religious intervention when my son decided he wanted to embrace Judaism and be bar mitzvahed. Post is still under my profile if anyone wants specifics. My ex and I share 3 children, Amy 18, Tom 16 and Ben 15. The people responding to that first post helped me to see that I was underreacting, and I met with a lawyer for a custody order as we had just done our own thing. I now have full decision making for our children's religious upbringing and full custody. Ex has visitation every other weekend. I have been incredibly flexible and let him take them pretty much whenever he or the kids want. On his weekend I stay with my parents and he stays in the house. Only rule I made was the stepmother is not around them at all. Ever. My kids are very close with their paternal grandparents. GPs know that stepmother is not to be around them, but twice when I picked them up she was there. Excuse was that she had just popped in quickly to drop off the baby. I asked them to let me know when they were sitting and we would plan a different day, but they said that it was a last minute thing. Okay, fine. They want them to come for a 5-day visit over Christmas break, not 24-25, and I cannot trust that this woman will not come over. Ben still gets incredibly anxious with her. Yes, he is in therapy. My in-laws refuse to tell her that she cannot come over because they say they do not want to be put in the middle and that it's making them choose between their grands. I reached out to my ex, who said that since she isn't coming over for long he's not stopping it. He also said that there is nothing in the order that she can't be around, and as his wife and mom of their sibling Therese, no reason that she should have to tiptoe around. He was incredibly dismissive, and I went nuclear on him. I told him that I have been letting him see them whenever, despite only having 2 weekends a month, that he was married to a sociopathic zealot, and that if she continued to come around I would go back to court and ask for supervised visits and a restraining order against her. He hung up. Then I asked the kids what they wanted. Come to find out the woman has been coming around a lot. Amy said their grandparents asked them not to say anything to not upset me. I told my daughter that as an adult she can go, but that her brothers would not be. Ben's look of relief broke my heart. Amy said and she felt weird when Step showed up. Tom said Hess with Ben Cold's meal, told her that the children not be coming back until they chose to. I said they were welcome to come over to see them. I said they were so wrong to ask the kids to keep secrets. They called my ex who berated me for punishing his parents. Stepmom sent me a text saying I was unfair. I think I'm right, but everyone else thinks I'm TA. Am I?